there being a big, I don't know, a big set of social security numbers and all types of information that was breached and whatever. But about a month, or actually about a week ago, it was the last week in February, I saw that there was yet again another big social security breach that was largely unreported and for a while completely undetected, I guess. So I wanted to have them on just for a short little 15 to 20 minute spot and all that, because that's just really at the center of what they do. And it's why that I met them and I still use their service. And I know that quite a few of you guys and gals do too. But and then in the second half, we're going to be welcoming our friend Jason Burmis back to the show. And we haven't had Jason on since maybe last summer. It feels like a really long time. Anyhow, it's the first time he'll be on in 2025. We'll be talking AI. We'll be talking Doge, Elon Musk, Epstein, that whole thing. What do you think? As you already know his skepticism to pessimism about the aura that Elon Musk carries around with him. And now he's a pretty central figure to this latest Trump administration. So I think it's going to be a good show tonight. Really do. And maybe in the first half, if I'm efficient enough with the time, we can take a couple of calls there. Tomorrow is going to be great because we have Joe Mooney of Homesteadonomics coming on. He's got a very popular channel, like over 500,000 subscribers, really good stuff. And he knows the time of day, man. He watches the show, actually. And I think it's going to be a great time just to talk about what's happening in the world and how people can get started with helping themselves out, no matter where they live and all that. It's one of those very useful, pragmatic kind of shows, as well as just fun and talking it out. So Joe Mooney tomorrow night. And then after the show tomorrow night, we got the State of the Union. We're going to syndicate that on quitefrankly.tv after the show ends. I don't think I'm going to be live with it and offering up commentary or anything like that. I'd rather just get home from the studio and get back here and put it on television and watch it with you all and be in the chat and just tweet a little bit and all. Who knows? But so that'll be some after hours fun when we end at 9 with Joe Mooney. On Wednesday night, this is going to be a great one too. Brandon Williams. We're going to talk about legal disconnection from the tax system. Is it possible? Can you do it without getting thrown away in jail? So that night, I definitely want to try out the new phone systems, because once I have a nice exchange with Brandon and we get everything onto the table that I want to get around to, I want to hear what you guys and gals have to ask and add to the situation. What questions you want to put out there. So that'll be nice on March 5th, Wednesday night. Brandon Williams, do not miss that one as well. After that all ends, we'll be doing overtime with Matt Christensen on his channel. On Thursday night, I want to tackle a couple of big topics that I think are controversial, relevant, and should get a lot of great calls in. I want to talk about the concept of brain death and organ donation, but also IVF, because it's been in the news a lot lately. And I didn't realize how much opposition it had, moral opposition it had. And I read into both sides, and there's a lot of gray area there. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't think is just very cut and dried. I really don't think so. And but I want to see, especially from what I have already coming in from the audience, some really compelling stuff. I think that should be a great night of conversation, and I hope that you take part in it, because it's not a talk show without you guys talking back. And then on Friday night, we may have Jay Gulinello in the house to hang out with us with John Barber in the second hour. That'll be the night that we go through the showbiz threads that we've been compiling, all of your positive celebrity encounters in public and heroes and villains, and then John Barber coming in with his Rat Pack era remembrances. We got a guy who is has quite a few nights under his belt of hosting the Tonight Show, knowing Dean Martin and Johnny Carson and Frank Sinatra and all the rest. So John Barber's 95 years old now, and he's going to be on with us. And I want to hear some stories, campfire stories. I told him, no politics, John. He goes, yes, I know. We're on the different pages with certain things. Like, good. Yes, We are, and that's fine. But for a Friday night, let's talk show business. So we've got a great week ahead of us. We really do. And it doesn't end on Friday night, because on Saturday night, March 8th, it is the Saturday night special that was rescheduled between my father, my cousin Jeff. They grew up together, so I wanted to get them riffing and have that recorded for all time and stuff. My brother should be there in studio. I think my mom wants to be in studio because she just wants to hear them talk. And that'll be nice. That'll be nice. Of course, those types of shows, they're really for the core audience that's in it for the human interest side of this whole thing. You know, the news comes and goes. 10,000 shows that can talk to you about the news, but this is about getting on the back porch or the front porch and hanging out and drinking some Keto Brainz along the way. Anyway, that's what we got for you. Does it sound intriguing enough? No? Then get the hell out of here. What do you want? You want an egg in your beer? I can't help you. If that doesn't sound good, I can't help you. All right, here we go. Into the grab bag. First one up is from the New York Post. This one was sent in by Katie in Texas. Katie Sky. Let's see here. Where's the window capture? Here we go. Take a listen to this. Blood donor who saved 2.4 million babies with his rare plasma dies at age 88. Now what? James Harrison, an Australian man who saved the lives of more than 2 million babies through blood donation, has died at 88, nicknamed the man with the golden arm. Harrison donated his blood over 1,100 times. I can barely go and take a couple of vials to check my cholesterol. Providing his plasma every 2 weeks for more than 6 decades. What made his donations particularly special is that he had a rare antibody that can protect babies from rhesus disease, Reese's Pieces, while they're in the womb. While they're in the womb. And also in the room. You could be in both, actually. His journey began at age 14 when he required several blood transfusions while he underwent lung surgery. I bet you any money that there's like a bolt of lightning that is involved in this story. Then he was struck by lightning, and ever since then, he's been curing his blood. Something happened to it. Grateful for the donations and inspired by his blood donor father, he began donating his blood regularly and continued to do so until he was 81. The upper age limit for plasma donations in his country, okay? Harrison's blood contained a rare antibody known as anti-D, which can be used to make medication to give the pregnant women with rhesus disease. Please forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. Rhesus disease isn't harmful to the mother, but it causes her antibodies to destroy her baby's blood cells, which can be fatal. Since anti-D was discovered in the 1960s, it has saved the lives of millions of unborn babies, and expectant mothers have relied on the kindness of a small group of people who could provide the antibody. Well, how many people are out there? Because we're going to have to replace this angel of a man. Thank you, sir. 88 years old. 88 years old. Anyhow, all right, so here's another one for you. I'm sure all of you were watching the Oscars last night. I can't do it. I can't do it. I would maybe peek in on the winners list if I had actually seen any of these movies, but I barely watch any of the movies anymore. I don't know the last time I actually watched a nominated film. And you know, those nights are usually when me, Lauren, everybody, my mother, father, we all just like, my mother and father will watch the award shows at my mother's place, and we'll just stay in our place and we'll just do our regular thing. We won't watch Hallmark, but we'll watch other shit because me and Anthony and his girlfriend and Lauren, I don't know, we didn't care about the award shows. And it's like whenever I go down to deliver some coffee or something to my mother and father, hey, you guys want some more coffee or something like that? It doesn't matter what point in any award show, the Tonys, the SAG, the Oscars, the Gram, it doesn't matter what point of the show it is. You're always walking in on it when some yappy woman is making a speech about somebody, some kind of, some kind of distress, some kind of burden. Somebody's talking about black excellence. It does not matter what happens. You walk in at any point and somebody's making some long-winded, tired, burdensome speech about something. You're like, all right, I don't know, but some people just love it. They I don't know. Anyway, one of the nights before the Oscars, somewhere else, NAACP, wherever the hell it is, this what is it? What's her name? KJ Smith. Apparently, she's an actress, and she's there with some man who is so well groomed that he looks like he was created by Pixar. Let me get this up here. Here you go. So apparently, her name is KJ Smith. Don't know who the hell she is, and I don't know who that guy is next to her. That was created by Pixar. But she had a very, very positive message for all the people watching out there about how there are places in the world that want to take them back. I guess black people back, which makes me think that she's talking about Africa or something like that. Anyhow, take a listen to this statement.
That you wish was talked about more within our community.
Understanding our roots, I think it's really important. I think we're not trapped here. With the political climate that's going on in the United States of America, we are not trapped here. There are places that we can go. There are countries that are receiving us back, citizenship back, and I think with open arms, and I think that it's time for the black community as a whole to start looking into those resources.
That you would.
All right. So, can you see this woman giving up the red carpet and the skin worshiping that we do in the United States to go live a humble life in Ghana? Can you see these two putting on the sandals and living on some dusty road in Ghana? Because I have to imagine that's what she's saying. Africa is looking to take everyone back if you're ready for it. Africa has enough problems of its own. They don't need an army of entitled American brats to show up. I bet these two, and you know what I read? I read this about the Oscars last night. You know, they have those famous gift bags and all that stuff. But BuzzFeed had something published this morning, said they're going through all the stuff that was in the 2025 Oscar gift bags for the nominees and shit like that. And apparently the gift bags were worth $217,000. All the stuff in there. There was what is it? What is this thing? A little bit. What is that? Sitting on it? Marijuana? A membership for functional health like labs. Also a number of cannabis and THC products. $160 product from Bibo, which is referred to as the Hermes of marijuana. They gave away what is it? Within a travel, there's a 5-night luxury wellness retreat offering personalized spa retreat, gourmet wellness cuisine, breathtaking views of the serene Sri Lankan hills, courtesy of Santani, worth $8,500. If that's not your thing, then Cotton House Hotel is offering to stay. You can get a stay there at their 5-star property in Barcelona, worth $5,200. Part of your gift bag at the Oscars. Here's another one. Also in the gift bag, a $25,000 liposuction gift certificate. $25,000 liposuction gift, and it went on and on. Over $200,000. Now I went and I just took that number. I just took the flat $200,000 number, and I prompted Grok. And I went to Grok. And I said, listen, I asked a couple of questions about what the buying power of a US dollar in Ghana. And here's what it came up when I finally came down to ballpark terms. 200,000 United States dollars is about 3.1 million of the dollars in Ghana as of today, March 3rd, 2025. 200,000 in Ghana of U.S. money gives you enough buying power to live comfortably for what is estimated to be. And this came down to this took into account, like I said, this is the ballpark. The much more detailed questions I was asking Grok had everything to do with cost of living out there, energy, average rent, food, everything. 200,000 US in Ghana gives you enough buying power to live comfortably for 20 to 30 years at a middle class level. You could buy a few modest homes or support a family with everyday expenses for decades. It's a significant amount locally, but won't make you endlessly rich due to inflation and other urban costs and whatever. I think that you can cut some corners to make that 20 to 30 years last. Okay? So that's the cash equivalent of one of those gift bags that the Academy Awards gets you. If you were to bring it to any African countries out there, and these silly bastards have the nerve to tell Black Americans that there are places that are willing to take you back because of some condition going on in society right now. That's hilarious in itself. Yeah, you first, baby. I would like KJ, whoever her name is, I'd like to see her go back first and give up the red carpet lifestyle and the microphone shoved in her face and the Pixar boyfriend. Oh my, she wouldn't leave this insane asylum if you gave her 60 years paid in Ghana. She wouldn't leave this insane asylum. It's too comfy. It's too cozy. So yeah, that's just a little something for you. Anyhow, here's one more thing for you. Republican Johnson wants a clean U.S. funding bill measure and to wait on spending cuts. I just want to throw this out real quick. And I know that there's people say that there's a little bit more to it, Frank. I've already heard it before. But this guy, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, he said that he wants to pass a clean stopgap funding measure. There's nothing clean about the whole thing. The whole thing's illegal. How can it be clean if the whole thing's illegal? A stopgap funding measure that keeps the federal agencies operating at current spending levels through September and leave proposed cuts for legislation for next fiscal year. Okay? So that means year one is essentially gone now. If that's really what we're talking about here, if this is where this ends, year one is gone. Now, I don't know how you can have a few $100 billion of bullshit identified just right off the top by whatever's going on with the Doge audits. We're talking about a couple of $100 billion that have been earmarked as this needs to be done away with right now. It's irrelevant. It's superfluous. It's downright suspicious. And that's just not even talking about all the things that they're finding in places like Social Security. But that's year one gone. Is there going to be another stopgap measure to get us past the holidays? And then all of a sudden it's 2026 and it's the midterms. You see how this works? 2 years is not a lot. 2 years is not a lot. I would like to see the small handful of people that they have as a majority in the House be used in the most, man, I wish whipping votes is not enough. They got to start twisting arms, breaking legs. Better watch out. I just heard if everybody shows up limping, it wasn't me. Anyhow, okay, we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. I got a couple more news items, and then in about 20 minutes or so, we're going to be joined by James and Skip from Patriot Protect with some more news on that end. Don't go anywhere.
Stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
Okay. Okay, everybody. So, There's that silliness to start the show off. Now that we got that silliness out of the way, you want to go to more silly? I just got some things to say about this Ukraine thing because some positive, updates from last week. I know that the rest of the world is in an upheaval. Well, I mean, elite and their slaves, the slaves on the bottom level slaves who are completely out of their minds and really have no control of themselves. They're up nuts. They took some Cold War redux nonsense, and it's almost like the idiots over here who owned liquor stores in 2022. And they started dumping out all of their Russian vodka to try to show Putin you can't take advantage of it. From the Financial Post, Europe's nightmare is here. They have to fight Putin without the U.S. I mean, this sentiment, all you need is the headline. This sentiment is everywhere. I mean, how insane is that? And again, the most insane thing about this whole situation has always been, but it's getting even crazier now. It's always been the way that NATO, the NATO coalition, continues to find new ways to admit that almost the entire continent of Europe is fighting and directing and instigating this war against Russia. That Ukraine is actually the least consequential part of the whole conflict. That is the most crazy thing. That every day they find new ways to admit that Ukraine, as far as a fighting force, is the least consequential part of this now 3-year bloodbath. And I'm telling you, very uncomfortable position for European citizens to be in right now with their crazy ass, MPs and everything else doing this stuff. Everything is there. Money, the weapons, the aircrafts, the tanks, the training, the media. But there has been no formal declaration of war and no conscription of European boys yet. Okay, because listen to this. From Zero Hedge. Europe unveils rival Ukraine peace plan backed by boots on the ground and planes in the air. Is the UK trying to pull Trump into starting World War III? During Sunday's security summit on European leaders to find an alternative peace plan to Washington's, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a coalition of willing to step up the efforts in Kiev. Starmer said he hopes his coalition will gain support and leadership from the Trump White House. We are at a crossroads in history today. Starmer unveiled a 4-point agreement to peace plan, though not agreed to by the U.S., to keep military aid flowing to Ukraine, to keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia. There is no economic pressure on Russia. We've actually established them economically, independently. This has established them. That any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be present at all peace talks. An event of peace deal to boost Ukraine's defense capabilities to deter any further invasion, to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee peace afterwards. But one crucial line in his remarks detailing the plan caught many people's attention: the express willingness to put Western/NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine. Quote, the UK are prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. To all of our friends, to all of our British friends, UK friends, is that true? Is that what you're willing to do? You're willing to send your boys over there? Because this pudgy freak, Keir Starmer, seems to think so. That's incredible. That's incredible. So the U.S. backs away from the table even slightly. And the plan, for everything we saw at the plan, no NATO, territorial concessions. You just have to get over it. some sort of a recuperating mineral financial deal. I don't like the future aid thing, but the mineral finance to get back the hundreds of billions have already been spent. I mean, compared to this, it's a lot better. There's still a lot of burning questions I have about what happens over there when it's all over. But dear Lord. So it's just incredible. There's no more people wondering why so many of these psychopaths, I should say no more, not many people in the mainstream corporate media. Everybody else is kind of like gnawing at their knuckles here. Stop this. Why so many of these psychopaths are being allowed to speak and act this brazenly? As they, for 3 years now, they've been doing this. They've been able to fight a war in a little Ukraine incubator, okay? That doesn't disturb any of the illusions of everyday life for the rest of us. That's a sick thing. Everybody in the For You tab on Twitter who's losing their mind because Trump just sided with this and Putin F that, F you, Putin, everybody making the best insults they can of Putin from thousands of miles away in their apartments, their rent-controlled apartments, their cozy apartments. It's blustery outside, but they're cozy inside. And they're tweeting at the man. They're tweeting at the biggest, baddest men in the world. They're doing it. It's just so nice. Isn't activism nice? That's the crazy thing about this. Up until this point, it has actually only been Vladimir Putin who's allowed this insanity to go on, to allow all of the ninnies in the West to continue on with this while this sham, this most blatant proxy war in my lifetime so far, can continue in this tiny little Ukrainian incubator where everybody knows who the actual combatants are. All right. This is billed as big bad Russia versus little, battle at Thermopylae, 300 Greeks, it's Spartans right there at the wall. It's billed like that, but everybody knows who the actual combatants are for the last 3 years. And because it's been able to stay maintained right inside of that little incubator, everybody who is rooting for this to continue or to expand has been able to keep the illusions of what everyday life is going to be if there's an actual war. A war, an actual war where the price has to be paid. Where right now there's this we've got the human shield. Like, let's say Ukraine is a bleeding, dying body. All of NATO is holding it up as a human shield and using the arms to fight with Russia and all that stuff to keep this ridiculous buffer. Just there's no room for buffer anymore. So I just wonder how pro-war these neo-libs and neocons would be if they had to sacrifice even a little more than the time that it takes to put some brainless tweets out there about Russia. But that's something else. To say what's really in it? Why? Why do they need it? This was an interesting one from Martin Armstrong. A couple more minutes before we bring on our guest for the first half. Europe is falling, Martin Armstrong warns. That's why they need war with Russia. Legendary financial and geopolitical psychoanalyst Martin Armstrong is back with a new warning about war coming to Europe. You may have seen the heated exchange between President Trump and Zelensky of Ukraine on Friday. If not, you should. Some of the Trump highlights are President Zelensky is not ready for peace. Zelensky is gambling with World War III, and you either make a deal or we are out. It looks like Zelensky intentionally started a fight with Trump in the White House. It also looks like every country in Europe is backing more war in Europe, and now there is a renewed talk of an EU army. Armstrong says why? Because they are all facing the collapse of the European Union. The debt is just unbelievable. They never consolidated. Between COVID, climate change, and sanctions on Russia, the German economy has shrunk 3 to 5%. The economic growth of EU is appalling. Europe is falling, and this is why they need war, so they're backing Zelensky. In a new report released yesterday, Armstrong lays out the case why war in Europe is coming in soon. In this report, I gathered a bunch of headlines. London Financial Times, what's the headline? America is now the enemy of the West. This is why Trump is saying we are out. Zelensky has admitted that 58% of the $350 billion the U.S. gave him is missing. You cut the funding and you're going to find out the truth. Trump should cut every single penny, bring it all out. Zelensky is counting on Europe to replace the United States. This is why he's so arrogant. Trump just should get the hell out of NATO ASAP. Yes, absolutely. So why are these reports coming out all in the last few months about gold coming to America from Europe? Armstrong says last week I was on the phone and I can't tell you how much, but when you are about to go into war, capital moves. Right now, I'm concerned that from about May 15th on, our computer Socrates says Europe is going into war, and I put it into this report, Europe will lose. This is why gold is coming to America. Armstrong also contends that you can forget about predictions of the U.S. dollar collapsing anytime soon. It won't. The euro will become extinct. Armstrong also predicts, I published what the computer Socrates put out on Ukraine. It's a flat line, and I have never seen that on any country. It's a flat line. It's going dead. That's it. Well, let's not also never forget what we got treated to in the media throughout, especially the first 2 solid years of that of the conflict in Ukraine. We got treated to these incredible, and I've seen some of the segments have been recirculating again, where you have little boutique fashion shop owners who are talking about how all the United States tax dollars, the aid money that is coming in to keep them open. And it's not like in the United States where our brave politicians shut down business because of the flu or some variation of it. And you shut down business and completely hamstring your own citizens. But when you go and you offer them economic relief, it comes in the form of loans that need to be paid back. Ukraine gets grants. The citizens of Ukraine gets grants. You remember they're propping up several, what's we call pensions over there in Ukraine as well. We get shafted constantly. We keep hearing about how they need. We need grants. If you're gonna tell us to stay home for 3 months and not have our businesses do anything, you give us grants. Well, they gave you rent moratoriums where the interest continues to compound. And they just wanted to make sure that whenever they did lift any of the sanctions over here, when we were at war with the flu, that there'd be no way you can actually get back on your feet, and that landlords lost their properties and everything else. But as far as this all goes, I mean, I guess what I would ask you guys and gals is what we were talking about with war being a transformative tool, among other reasons why you go to war, legitimate and otherwise, a transformative tool in the way where it allows a group of people, especially bankers and the governments that they control, to transition out of one dying economic system into something new without taking the blame for actually killing the economy before the war. That the war could be a really great excuse for why economically you are now absolutely dead. You are inert because you expended yourself fighting a noble cause, of course, but you just couldn't come up with a victory, especially because the Americans weren't there to save you. Is that really what it is? Is this really just what we've talked about in the past, using war as a cover for transitioning us into a new reality, or in this case, the Europeans? Or is it something else? I'd like to know about that. I'd like to know a little bit about that. So, I don't know. That's all. Armstrong also predicts, I published that the computer Socrates, it's a flat line. Did the election of Donald Trump stop a thermonuclear war with Russia? Armstrong says absolutely. You had Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala. Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger were on the J6 committee, but both of them are neocons. Adam Kinzinger said we could defeat Russia in 3 days. They put out nothing but propaganda all the time. We were talking about this here too. Actually, we were talking about that with the assassination. There was no, it was not very smart for any of us to put our life savings on whether or not Donald Trump could legitimately, the system allow him to legitimately walk away with a victory without throwing up some kind of a block in his way, something. Like, we knew that there was only ever, just like in 2020, there was only ever real positive organic um, support for Trump, whereas everything else was a clown car of celebrities that fell flat and they didn't do anything for Kamala Harris. But we were talking about this with the assassination, and that's months before election night. All things equal, Trump runs away with this election like he did, and also 2020. If, of course, the 9 million phantoms of the opera didn't show up, like, to vote. But we're looking at this and you say, well, we still had months until the election came. But right there, if Trump died in Butler, there could have been thermonuclear war the next day. Because I think everybody, both here and abroad, understood what was on the line, especially Putin. Watching what was going on over here in the United States with the lawfare and everything, he knew that Donald Trump was running a marathon obstacle course. And if he tripped up and fell along the way, then God knows what could have happened. Back in July, we were talking about that. Now, on election night, that was something else there, too. If he lost the election but kept his life, we would be in just as bad position. Anyhow, Europe is absolutely suicidal. They are on it's a death pact that they have taken here. I thought this was a funny tweet, though, from one Rob Jenkins. Someone dropped it into the Gilded earlier on before. Rob Jenkins on Twitter says, if Putin isn't stopped, all of Europe could succumb to totalitarianism. People could be jailed for social media posts. They could be threatened with arrest for praying in their homes. Rape gangs and child traffickers could run rampant. It's too awful to contemplate. Which is, I hope I don't have to explain the joke to you, but ask somebody in the chat room if you don't get it. So that's what we have. Now, on the other side of things, I want to bring on two guests tonight. Since Doge started up, we've seen a lot of people suddenly become concerned with the security of their personal information. What is Elon Musk looking into my personal information? No, Doge isn't investigating you and I, at least not right yet. Who knows, right? But we are getting very embarrassing evaluations of how our money, public evaluations, and embarrassing for those who are directing the money. We're getting very embarrassing valuations of how our money is being used to fund things that are not only unconstitutional, that are not only not doing anything for us, but and in many respects actually work against our best interests as Americans and as humans. But when it comes to stories that really affect our personal information, I rarely see any attention paid to something like this. This is from Newsweek. Hold on a second. Background checks on 3 million people exposed in the U.S. data hack. A data breach at a U.S. employee screening company has caused the personal information of more than 3.3 million people to be leaked. It has been revealed. DISA Global Solutions, which performs background checks and drug tests for some of the biggest companies in the U.S., said that it was the victim of a cyber incident in which hackers gained access to private information, including social security numbers, credit card numbers, and government identification of more than 3 million people. I want to talk a little bit about this here. And for that, I'm going to bring on my friends Skip and James from Patriot Protect. Are you guys there?
Mr. Frank, what a pleasure. The
Hey.
cybersecurity boys are checking in.
I know.
How you doing, Frank?
I'm so glad you guys got the Halo drop in tonight to talk about this stuff. The last time you were on, I don't know if we were, I forget what we discussed, but it was something along this line. Refresh my memory. Last year, in 2024, there not another data breach? Wasn't it was like a cyber criminal group, US DOD or something like that?
Yeah, 100% right. I mean, not only was there an enormous data breach last year, but this is also just standard operating procedure at this point. I mean, the reality is that due to our, the nature of our, digitized economy and financialized economy, is that you have this information that is being pulled from you, all the time. Think about how many times in a week you click I agree to a term of service, to a bunch of terms of service that are using your likeness, your information, your personal email, your phone number, your family's information, how long you're looking at something. An enormous amount of information is being generated by you and being turned over to these large, multinational conglomerates without any say that you have to be able to do something about it. It's just out there. And so, this leak that happened a couple weeks ago, this was something that was going on for 2 months unnoticed. So says the company. These leaks are just constantly going on. And so, as and we'll talk about it as much as you feel comfortable. But what we've come to find out is that a lot of these data leaks, these data dumps, are put out there for sale. Your information is put out there for sale on the dark web for the exact kind of people that that James and I combat on your behalf, which is criminals, cyber criminals, scammers, people looking to drain your bank accounts, people looking to take advantage of seniors, especially vulnerable to this sort of thing. And these are the enemies that James and I fight every day without taking a break.
No, I was so happy when I found you guys, between you and a few other really essential affiliates. And I mean, I've been using your service since October, and I've seen incredible things just dry up on the internet. I know it's hard to stay completely clean, especially since I'm in the business I'm in, but still, it's nuts what is available, and it's just so much fat. But here, listen to this, and maybe James, you can comment on this next section from Newsweek. In a filing with Maine's Attorney General on Monday, DISA said that the attack, which occurred on February 9th of last year, 2024, was not noticed for 2 months. And they said the client lists 1/3 of the companies in the Fortune 500 list, and with over 55,000 total customers, the company is one of the largest employee screeners active in the U.S. But 2 months, they could not definitively conclude the specific data that was procured. And then the filing confirmed that 3.3 million people were affected by the breach. And I mean, how the hell is something this big just not even noticed for months?
Well, let me actually just sort of clarify something here. They're saying they didn't notice this for 2 months. They are willing to say 2 months. Without a shadow of a doubt, it was much, much longer than that. And the people who stole this data took everything they wanted. So they disclosed that there was credit card information stolen and a few of the basics, what you'll sort of see when these things happen. There was more taken than that. Yeah. And I just want to say, Skip was sort of refreshing the memory of the listeners on some of what we've been dealing with. The dark web, this has been sort of a recent venture for us, something we're trying to wrap our arms around. It's vast, and these people do trade in it, but it's not just the dark web. I mean, a lot of this stuff, and you said it yourself, it's on Google, it's on DuckDuckGo, it's on every search index, and it's just freely exchanged by people who want to exploit it. I would encourage people listening to just Google themselves and their home address. I don't think you're going to like what you see. So, you mentioned you work with a bunch of different people. That's good. I would encourage everyone to use some service, whether it's us or not. Protect yourself. There are a lot of people who would like to exploit your information. You've probably got friends and family members who have been targeted by these folks, scams, Medicare fraud, you name it. Everyone has some experience or is connected to someone who has had one of those experiences.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you guys are the only people I work with with this respect. Like I said, because there are companies out there that, when you first came on, I told you I put this off for many years because the prices that people were quoting me were stomach churning. Then all of a sudden you came around with a monthly plan that was competitive with what AOL used to be like. And I was like, oh, great. Holy shit. But tell me a little bit about these latest leaks and how it pertains to the dark web, and then I'd like to know what you guys are doing to get in on that, because I've wanted to have conversations about the so-called dark web for a long time now, because anybody that I talk to says, hey, well, that's the actual internet, where we hang out with on the surface, where all the the social media platforms are, and your favorite sports website. That's like being at the shallow end of the pool, and everything else is just, I mean, it's endless. So, how this was all transacted, these breaches and stuff, all these transactions are being made on the dark web.
Oh yeah, yeah. So let me I'll bring everybody through how this sort of thing works. So anybody in the chat, any of the thousands of people that are listening or whatever. I'll give you this example for the one that we just, the big leak that we just had now. These are information of anybody that applied for a job in, let's just call it like, the last, 3-4 months or something like that, right? This information, social security numbers, whether your drug test results, all these sorts of things were leaked and procured and put on the dark web for sale. So what they say is, the hackers, the cyber criminals say, this is, I've got 3.3 million names, addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, social security numbers, drug test results, maybe references and family names for sale. Who is going to be the highest bidder? So for all of those, that are in the chat and thinking about this, like, this is now up for sale on the dark web. So these are websites that aren't even readily available to, you can't even like go to them from a normal web browser. You use something called Tor or like an Onion network or something like that, VPNs, that sort of thing. Shady stuff, to say the least. And it's put out there for procurement. And so somebody will purchase them. And then it kind of gets filtered out from there. It goes to the lowest, it goes to other bidders that gets different tranches of it. Maybe they say, hey, I want to focus on scamming seniors in California because, we have our call center has some experience with Medicare or Medicaid fraud in California or something like that. And then that section of it gets sold. And then people in Wisconsin or whatever, or I want only people that are over 75 because they are more easy to scam because, they just don't have the experience with technology like the younger generations might. So that's how it's divvied out. It goes to the people with the most expertise to scam that kind of person. So it's important to know that when you get a phone call, a scam phone call, and you answer and it's somebody that says, hey, are you above 65 plus, blah, 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 Medicare, Part B, D, eligible? That is not a random attack. That is not somebody just randomly calling because they know who you are. Now, there's two avenues that this is being gotten from. The first one is what we provide coverage for in our individual plan, whether you do monthly or yearly, is we delete you from Google. We delete you from DuckDuckGo. We delete your information from all of these data brokers from 100 plus sites to make sure that your information isn't just Googleable. And I implore anybody, if you've never done this before, whether or not you use our service or somebody else's, we think it's important to Google yourself and your address, like James said. And all of this information, it's pages of information on you, your name, your address, your family members, their ages. Again, I think we said this last time we came on the show, like in any, this should be illegal. Yeah. This shouldn't it's able to be there.
It's horrible. And I have a testimonial here. I want to do that toward the end because I love when this stuff comes in, especially when it by way of somebody who links up with an affiliate and friends of ours. But I have to just jump in to hear some comments you guys have, because we only have about 9 more minutes left with each other. When it comes to Social Security in particular and all this information, what we've been learning the last few weeks, we know that the system itself, even when they tell us it's running nicely, is horrendous. It's very easy to see here that even if there aren't any breaches, the Social Security system when it's running normally is actually a mechanism for massive fraud. When we hear we hear some of the numbers that come out of the executive branch like Doge about 20 to 30 million people who are dead but marked as alive. That doesn't mean that 20 to 30 million people are getting Social Security checks paid to them in any way, shape, or form. But with those numbers that are active, they can be collecting money in any number of ways. They can also be taking out lines of credit. They could be doing so much that's going on right now. What did you guys think, just as partners? I'm sure that you discuss the news every day with what's just being uncovered with Doge, with especially with Social Security, where that is usually at the center of so many of these breaches, where these things, these tranches of information are being bought and sold constantly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let me just start off by saying, because I tuned in a little bit before we hopped on and you mentioned Doge, and to be clear, Doge is not who you have to worry about as far as your personal information goes with this stuff. To your point, the answer is scary. I can't give an answer that's going to make everyone feel good. As long as these institutions continue to exist in the capacity that they do now, there's always a level of risk. I mean, there's always a level of exposure. Do you trust everyone working in these offices that have complete access to everything about you? No, that would be insane.
No.
Yeah. No. And this is why it's so important that we have to take, it's incumbent on each one of us to take action. I mean, this is the one thing that we say is, like, if you have not taken action about your information that's out there, whether it's on the dark web or it's on, these publicly available databases, if you have not taken action, you're exposed. If you do not subscribe to our service or a service like it, you are exposed, and there's just no other way to do it. The sick part about it is that it's not even like a one-time thing that you can do to get rid of it. It's constant and it's ongoing. It's like weeding a garden. Once you get one weed, another one pops up right next to it. So it's just you need to have constant coverage for this sort of thing. Otherwise, you left yourself like a sitting duck.
And if I can just say one quick thing, I noticed in chat, Nikki Carlin said, "What if you have a super common name like John Johnson? Are you safe?" They've got much more to go off of than just your name. That's why when we do our search and destroy, which is our protocol that does the initial sweep, we get pretty specific with your information, because we are searching you based on all of the criteria that they are trading. So unfortunately, you can be Joe Schmo, doesn't matter. We are asked all the time. We have people, one of the reasons we get a lot of users is for stalkers and things like that. And we have people who reach out and say, "What if I move?" Or "I've already moved." Yeah, they know that you moved. They've got all real estate information and everything. Moving is not enough.
Here's the thing. I look at this as something where this is just the world we live in now, and it should be a part of anybody's just daily online health routine, to be honest. Just something almost like a daily vitamin. It's going on in the background, and at least you're doing something, because like you said, the world is just full of bad actors, and if somebody is dedicated to one thing or another and you've been targeted, I mean, that's something else. But as far as just being out there and having this, that's good. And I would suggest anybody do it. I do have one question though. Like, when we hear about these particular stories on Newsweek that ensnares millions of people, that perhaps, where it's like, this is by way of a financial institution or something else. Like, if we're doing everything that we are doing possibly to protect ourselves on the internet, which could be inadequate at the end of the day, but still you're doing better than most other people. What the hell do you do? Like, what would you guys do if you heard that your Social Security number was in this 3.3 million person breach? I mean, it doesn't sound like there's anything you can do at that point. I mean, you only have one Social Security number your whole life. So
great question. So the answer is, you need to find out if it has been sold and if it's out there. So we are pioneers in this. As far as I know, we're one of the only solutions out there on the market that marries what we do to protect your public profile as well as your private profile that has been leaked onto the dark web. We introduced, which you know about, Frank, our Patriot Protect Blackout service. And think of it like a tourniquet. We stop the bleeding if the damage has already occurred. So what we do is we take a look at your phone number and your email address, and we search the dark web to tell you if it has been leaked, where it was leaked, and when it was leaked. And we send you a report to show you all that information. And from there, we give you, a call it a course of treatment of what we suggest for you to do as a result to mitigate that. Again, millions of people, out of those millions of people that just had their stuff leaked in the last 2 months, how many of them are going to go get Patriot Protect Blackout and be able to know where they were exposed? I wish we could cover all of them. I really wish we could, because it's just, I think that's part of one of the reasons why we end up being looked at as kind of like the cybersecurity experts for our movement, is that this is something that's got to stop. And trust me, with all the people that we talk about, we'd love to see if we can do something, with the government to make sure that this stops, because it's not right and it's not fair for, we care about liberty and privacy as the bastions of our organization. And let me tell you one thing. I mean, we are a hell of a lot less of the cost of any home security service. We say we are about the cost of leaving the porch light on. And you leave the porch light on and you lock your door at night because you don't want people looking you up, seeing the value of your house, seeing who your family members are and who's in the house, and knocking on that door. We make sure that we stop them before they even come to your house.
And just to tie it back to your question, Frank, it is much better to be preemptive with this than to be reactive.
Right.
It's much easier to get out in front of it than to do damage control. That's just the truth. So we always urge people to take the steps now rather than scramble once everything's out there.
Well, when I see news like this, and I see especially the daily headlines of what's coming out of the White House, I figured, well, I got to bring you guys back on. I've been working with you since October now, and yep. I'm very happy, and I know quite a few people in the audience has been. So your commentary on stuff like this is valuable to me. So I appreciate you guys coming on here. And next time when you come on, we'll talk. We'll get a little bit more of an update. I don't know when the hell that will be, but we'll find out. We'll look at what's going on with the Trump administration, and if they were to see, here, if you can keep the answer to under 30 seconds. Sure. If the Trump administration sought your advice today and they pulled you in because you're just talking about, your principles and what you'd like to be able to do for your country. If the current administration sought you out and they asked your advice on anything, like what do we need to do to address quickly? What would be the first thing that you would come up with that from a professional standpoint, you think that the government should be able to get in on or upgrade or whatever?
Incredible question. Leverage the FCC to shut all of these companies down that publish hardworking Americans' information out for scammers to use freely. It costs nothing for them to go and look up these companies and see what information is out there on you. That's
and transparency of government agencies. More transparency, absolutely.
Yeah. And also leverage the government to be able to stop the scammers and cyber criminals from taking advantage of these people, their Medicare benefits, the Social Security benefits, and draining their bank accounts. It happens all the time. Think about what the cost to the American people is for the amount of money and retirement and benefits lost. It is worth it to shut this down, and I hope we can get that sort of an audience.
Oh, you know what? I mean, absolutely. Right off the bat, like we said, when you say 20 to 30 million people are still counted inside of the Social Security system that are alive, that are not alive, that are in excess of 250 years old, whether checks are being cut from the Social Security office or somewhere other part of the country, or a loan is being given to somebody. We're talking about 20 to 30 million instances of potential identity theft. Regardless of how it's being used or utilized, whether it is to be able to get into a voting booth when you're not supposed to, or whether it is getting a $10,000 line of credit when it's just somebody else. That's what we're talking about here. It's all identity theft, and this is happening at the highest level. So thank you guys again for everything. And just here's a testimonial from our friend Greg in Arizona. He says, "I know you like feedback on your guests, Frank. I signed up for Patriot Protect after you had them on, and it's like I don't exist anymore. I not only put in my name, but my name with my old employers, schools, addresses, and all I get are other people with my name or similar name. The only thing that still shows up are the charity sites I donated to, and that's only because they didn't get my name from a broker, but directly posted it to their site. So happy 4 more years, Greg in Arizona." And I know Greg, and I'm happy about that. And just so everybody knows, Patriot Protect, the link is in the description of the episode, and you can also find them on the affiliates page on quitefrankly.tv. James, Skip, thanks for everything. I can't wait to have you back on for some more of these check-ins.
Frank, always a pleasure.
All right.
Anytime.
All right, brothers. Take care.
Be well, man.
See ya.
Bye.
All righty. So here's what we got going on, ladies and gents. We're going to go on a really quick break. Very, very quick break for intermission. When we come back, Jason Burmis. Oh, it's going to be like old times. Like a couple months ago in 2024, whenever the hell last time it was. Don't go anywhere. Already a great show. Where the hell is everybody? You guys see me? Where did I go? Thank God you still heard me. All right, BRB. Well, I want to bring him on because it's been a long time. He's a researcher. He is a documentary filmmaker of many films that have actually changed the course of internet history. I know a lot of my own friends are always very grateful when Jason comes on, because it's like going back in time to when we were just getting out of high school and realizing that the world is just not the way it seems. What is going on? Jason Burmis, good to have you on.
Thank you very much for having me, my friend. I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, it's been a great, it's been an interesting new year so far. It's been challenging in quite a bit of ways, but how's everything with you? How's the show? And yeah, how you feeling? No. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I don't know what the hell just happened there. All right, keep going. It's all you now.
No. Apparently I'm a black and white movie of a man falling down.
I know. Sorry. Could have been worse, I guess, right?
I mean, that's about right. I mean, that's where the show's at. Yeah, I'm still doing the show over at patriot.tv. I actually recording a banger of an episode tomorrow. I'm going to have Kurt Weldon on. He is the congressman that brought attention to the pre-9/11 program Able Danger that identified Atta and a bunch of others. Oh, it looks like I put my little lower third. See, I'm such a jerk. Let's take those right off there. There we go. Perfect.
Because look at this. I can give you one of my own.
Oh, there we go.
See? There you have it.
Again, I got the whole thing in front of me. But anyway, Kurt Weldon's going to be coming on. He went on Jimmy Dore, and he's saying that this administration is already looking at certain aspects about 9/11, and they're ready to reveal them. Okay, that's great. I wish we could full throttle that. I want to see them full throttle these assassination documents. And quite frankly, we need to stop the Epstein tease, right? I got to be really honest with you. You know, I didn't necessarily expect the Epstein files. And I think that the obsession with the Epstein files comes with the fact that the conservative base is so focused in on Bill Clinton, and they think that every Democrat in the world is going to be listed. When Jeffrey Epstein, I want people to really get this, was not selling girls to anybody. That is not what was, not one time do I ever think that he actually said, hey, and this is going to cost this, and then we're going to deliver here. No. He was currying favor and blackmailing people. We already have a ton of names, Frank. And that's the thing that's really frustrating. You know, I went on one of these large-scale spaces, the Mario Nafal space.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with Mario Nafal?
Oh yeah, I've listened to quite a few. Yeah.
So they have me on the morning that these Epstein files are supposed to drop, right? And I'm on it, and I'm being patient because I'm letting people talk, and they don't have any idea what they're talking about. I really hate to say that. Complete ignorance on the subject. Just nothing of value being said. Then one of these people steps in and acts like they published the Epstein Black Book. Okay? I'm not kidding. Like, oh, I'm the one that put it on there, and it was through anonymous. And I got so frustrated. I had to stop him. And I go, I don't know what's going on here. But no, you didn't. I'm like, Nick Bryant, the journalist Nick Bryant, published the Black Book. He did it through Gawker. Okay, because no other mainstream outlet would take that Black Book. Now, the Black Book was gotten by Epstein's butler, who had originally tried to shop it to lawyers of some of the victims that were suing Epstein at the time.
So, wait. So there was that. See, this is something. So there actually was a Black Book, because I thought because what I had thought that this was a euphemism for all of the names that had been legitimately procured from different sources and then finally centralized by people who were sleuthing, effectively. I didn't know that there was an actual physical.
100%.
Okay.
An actual physical Black Book. In fact, let me see if I can just pull it up. So actually, all right. So just by typing it in, we'll take my thing off. What's inside Jeffrey Epstein's little Black Book? 84, Nick Bryant, Epstein's secret little Black Book. So Nick Bryant acquired this thing. All right. Here's the journal, even here, the journalist who published Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book. So it's known. Not only did Nick Bryant publish the Black Book, the only thing that was redacted in it, Frank, were the phone numbers and contacts within. Okay. So later on, someone published that, but we had all the names, and it was a real Black Book. Now, what happened was that butler, after he did that, was reported by the lawyer. And ironically, that butler served 18 months in a federal prison, really more time than Epstein did for his crimes, in a resort type facility. So that guy did his time, and then he ended up dying. All right. Now, I'm not saying anything's nefarious, but he's not out there anymore. Nick Bryant also published the flight logs that we have available. Okay. So this is a real journalist that did real digging, that's published real books, that prior to digging into high-level pedophilia was regularly in Rolling Stone, Salon, and all sorts of mainstream publications. Now, Nick put out, it's on my Twitter feed, a little 18-and-a-half-minute mini documentary explaining to everybody there is no list. Let me repeat that again. There is no list. From what we know about the Epstein case in 2007 and 8, Frank, he has hundreds of victims. Hundreds. All right? Now, I need that to sink in for people. That means on a regular basis for Jeffrey Epstein, women and young girls, he would only go with women if they looked young, okay, and they were new, were being procured not just for his massage service, but then to enter the harem, okay, and possibly become a recruiter. So when I say we have names in this little mini doc, Nick Bryant names those names. I'm going to name those names right now. It's not a mystery. Sarah Kellen, Leslie Groff, Haley Robinson, Nadia Marcinko, aka Nadia Marcinkova, who I am the most sympathetic to. Because again, if you have read the actual available documentation, okay, then you know that Nadia Marcinkova allegedly was bought from her parents at 14 in Yugoslavia by Epstein. And again, if you believe the documentation, she essentially not only becomes a sex slave within this unit, but she also becomes a pilot, okay? So a mode of transportation. People like Sarah Kellen, okay? She ends up marrying extremely rich Glenn Dubin, all right? Glenn Dubin, Frank, is the gentleman, I dare not even call him that, the person named in these documents that a young teenage girl says that she woke up on the island and had her identification taken away from her and was freaking out when she didn't even know how she had gotten there. Glenn Dubin specifically mentioned in that. What people don't understand is that Glenn Dubin's wife is one of Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriends, okay? So I need people again to understand the way that this was working is that Epstein was using these girls and women that he had already basically molested and broken in himself with his crew to then compromise or negotiate other deals with people. So what do I mean compromise? I don't think that somebody like Marvin Minsky and some of the other people went down there specifically for sex with kids. They went down there for meetings, and then they are compromised with young girls, women, depending, and probably through blackmail. Remember, we know, it's not a question, Frank. We know that they have hard drives, they have CDs and DVDs, Burns, and they have large binders with these in them, as well as photographs that are all labeled, Frank. They literally, you know, I've shown those pieces of evidence before from that New York raid. Nick Bryant, in his little mini documentary, shows the articles in which because again, it's blacked out on the binders. It has names of people with names of other people. So probably names of those that were being blackmailed and then names of the sexual victims themselves. All of this has been publicly available now for 6 years. There's not really been anything new come out of the Epstein case for, again, 6 years. And the one thing that is still very taboo and people are not talking about, and that really they want to suppress, is the fact that he was an arms dealer. So aside from the fact that where they found that safe, Frank, where they found a bunch of the pornographic material, that's where they found a passport with a separate identification for Jeffrey Epstein, where he had a Saudi Arabian name and address. All right?
I remember this. I remember that.
Now, the reason for that is that he also curried favor with Adnan Khashoggi. Khashoggi was involved in Iran-Contra. He was a massive arms dealer, and guess what? He had a harem of women. He was one of those playboys. So if you believe the very limited information that Vicky Ward put out about that, basically you had Khashoggi mentor him in those aspects. Now, when we're talking about somebody like a Prince Andrew, you're not necessarily there to blackmail Prince Andrew. You're there to curry favor with Prince Andrew by what? Giving him access to girls, women, and good times. Because why? Andrew is the royal arms dealer. He's the arms dealer of the UK. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars with every trade in these interactions. I think that I mentioned this the last time that I was in the program, but I'd encourage people to go check it out. Again, it's on my Twitter feed. The great Kurt Metzger was good enough to go and just clip it out. But it's Lewis Black, the comedian, talking about his one time inside of Jeffrey Epstein's home in New York City, where Jeffrey Epstein takes him to the side. He has a whiteboard in a separate room, and he points to it and he says, "You know what that is?" Lewis Black goes, "No, I don't." He goes, "Those are weapons systems that I was discussing with the Israeli defense minister last night." So why in the hell would Jeffrey Epstein have a whiteboard with weapon systems, discussing them with the defense minister of Israel, if he was in fact not involved in arms dealing?
And then to brag about it with comedians. Hey, he also bragged the same way about helping found the Clinton global initiatives and all that stuff. Let me ask you this. Well, I know you say curry favor with Prince Andrew, but as a secondary side to the same sword, isn't keeping people in an acceptable orbit, saying, "Hey, well, we're in this we're thick as thieves now. I know your proclivities, and let's get a deal done here." I mean, selling arms is one thing, but of course, winning favor with underage girls is something else. There has to be a blackmail aspect to that in some respect. No.
Think about the time period, though. Okay. In that time period, I mean, Virginia Giuffre Roberts is legal in Europe. Okay. And a lot of these things aren't taking place. Let me give you an example of curry favor, or maybe somebody who was on someone who I don't believe was being blackmailed at all in Epstein. Another name in the network that we 100% know about, Jean-Luc Brunel. So Jean-Luc Brunel is this guy who is a modeling mogul. Now, remember, Les Wexner is directly connected to Jeffrey Epstein, but Les Wexner somehow, some way has been able to navigate the legal battles of this. In fact, Hulu, I'm not sure if you're aware, Frank, but they made an entire documentary series about Les Wexner, L Brands, Victoria's Secret, the connections to Epstein. It barely scratched the surface of the public's curiosity. We keep talking about names and lists. Les Wexner's out there. Jean-Luc Brunel, I mean, he's on the plane with Epstein in pictures wearing IDF hats. Again, Israeli Defense Forces hats, while Ghislaine Maxwell massages Jeffrey Epstein's feet. Now, Jean-Luc Brunel did eventually get charged. He was being held in a prison in Paris, France, where he allegedly committed suicide. So he's no longer with us. But if you look at some of the documentation, again, that came out in this Epstein arena, you had the black book, you had the flight logs, but then you also had planners. And I'm not sure if you've seen the planners, but in one of the planners, I believe it said something like 2 8-year-olds, and it was directed to Jean-Luc Brunel. It seems like Jean-Luc Brunel and Jeffrey Epstein were kind of swapping girls and women sexually. Okay. So you have that connection. I don't think he was ever blackmailing Brunel. I think he was a part of that network of compromising others and cutting deals. When you look at Les Wexner, he is an unapologetic Zionist, right? Like there's no doubt about that. He has the Wexner Foundation. He's very involved in geopolitics. And if you go back far enough, it really looks like he's involved with the Central Intelligence Agency as well. And if you've never seen the movie, I believe it's Air America with Mel Gibson and Robin Williams. Or no, I'm sorry, Mel Gibson and Robert Downey Jr. That's a movie kind of about covert actions by the United States in that arena. And there's just no doubt about it. Epstein worked for numerous intelligence outlets, not just the Mossad, not just U.S. intelligence. It's more than likely British intelligence as well, and it probably goes even beyond that, especially when you look at Robert Maxwell, who was doing all those things, and the father of Ghislaine.
On SDNY then, Pam Bondi, I think it was a couple days ago, said that she was looking for documents and found here's some quotes. I found resources that told me that New York's SDNY are sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. I know, she's telling Mark Levin, I have not reviewed the information yet, even though she said this stuff was sitting on her desk. As a lawyer, as a prosecutor, I want to review everything before I make a firm conclusion. I find it very interesting that they held that from us. I will find out who withheld that, and they will not be working with us anymore. Now, you just said that we had seen nothing new in 6 years. Obviously, everything we do know is extensive. If I want to do a soup to nuts dive on this, I know you're one of the people that can really go in on it. I know it's extensive. I think the average person wants to hear a long list of celebrity names, and that's going to be the big hook, and politicians. But the reality may be just as shocking as well. I mean, what we do know, we have royalty, we have prime ministers, we have presidents. I mean, it is that, but there's probably so many more aspects of this. It gets even deeper. But when you talk about things that we know and what we haven't seen, what do you think we're going to get from the Southern District of New York? Because a lot of people are of the mindset that if these Epstein / IC friendly elements that are controlling certain federal investigative, FBI offices or whatever the hell it is, we know that now the FBI itself had been BTFO'd quite a few times from Epstein, so we know that they're not the biggest hen. The biggest player out there as far as who has authority. They've been told to back the hell off. So what is there? What do you think could have been preserved? A lot of people don't believe that there's going to be anything of substance there, that if there was something of substance, whoever was collecting the stuff, whatever cameras were set up in the island, was it being backed up there locally, or was, the employers of Jeffrey Epstein having all that stuff, I don't know, shared and kept off site? Would it really be in the SDNY?
So Schellenberger, Michael Schellenberger, who a lot of people became familiar with after the Twitter files, he came out even before the release when Bondi said something on Jesse Waters and said that he had sources saying they were destroying evidence at the New York field office. I don't know whether that's true. What I can do is I can right now show you some of the evidence that was collected. So you're asking what should have been there. Okay. Well, we hit the wrong button. Here we go. Here's the button. All right. So right now you see this safe. Now here you've got binders, you've got some jewelry. This is where they found the passport. But here's just one little example right now of some of the other things that we're looking at. And what you're looking at are burned discs that are labeled. Okay. Now there are the hard drives right there. If you see those on the bottom, you talk about surveillance. Those are video surveillance, and they looks like they've been taken before, as they have police tape on them already. Let me see.
He didn't even remove it.
No, absolutely not. And I'm not sure. Like, they even blacked out like the paintings on the wall that we know about. Let me see if I can X this out and get the one really good one that I'm not seeing here. This one doesn't appear to have the binders, but I assure everybody there are binders. Now, if people want lists, okay, who was Jeffrey Epstein calling? I did a video series where I literally went through the Black Book, and here it is right here, one by one. They did a really great article on this. So I mentioned Dubin. This is Eva Dubin. That is the wife of Glenn Dubin, Prince Andrew, you name it. Now, the thing is, Frank, that list isn't even the only one. Later on, they would also get a Rolodex of people and meeting times with him. that included people like Peter Thiel. I did a separate video just on that list alone. And then, again, really, I want people to take a look at this Law and Crime article that kind of breaks down Vicky Ward letting us know that Epstein was involved in arms dealing and with Adnan Khashoggi. Now, of course, she doesn't take it far enough, but it gives you a cursory example. So listen, if we are getting the real thing, what we will get are either summaries of or actual still shots or photographs of horrendous crimes being committed against young girls and other victims. I would imagine with them blacking out or subduing the victims' faces. I don't know that we're ever going to see that. Okay. And again, if you're doing the real investigation, you would also need to publish all the documentation that goes back to the Miami Beach files that we know are essentially under lock and key. And that Alan Dershowitz, helped get. That's going to be one of the problems with this Trump administration. Let's not forget, Dershowitz was Trump's lawyer during the impeachment hearings and has a rather, I'd say, close relationship with a lot of people in that inner circle. And he's got his hands all over it. Whether or not you believe he was doing anything nefarious with children, I want to let people know he beat Virginia Giuffre Roberts in court. She had to apologize and say she was mistaken when she mentioned Alan Dershowitz. And I think originally she had claimed that she had had sex with him 6 times. Dershowitz won in court. Dershowitz represented Les Wexner. Les Wexner won against her in court. So, that Palm Beach deal was so unprecedented, and it was supposed to secure a non-prosecution for Epstein's co-conspirators. In one regard, that kind of got overturned, not only with the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, but the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell. But remember, Ghislaine Maxwell was not the only one that was being protected. Frank, we have so many of those videos of victims, literal video interviews of them talking about people like Groff, Kalin, Robinson, and the trafficking that they were involved in. So they've already done a ton of interrogations. You've got to take that to the next level now. You've got to go beyond them and their contacts, and you got to start arresting people in that. But then you have to go all the way up to the fact that Prince Andrew had this relationship with Epstein in 2017-18 when he said he didn't. This guy did not stop, I assure you. We didn't even get into Zorro Ranch. There's another place that was never investigated. Yet, in the cursory exams of that we do know of, we know that Epstein was into eugenics, wanted to build a quote-unquote army of Epsteins, and in that facility had beds and housing for over 20 pregnant women at a time, Frank.
That was it. I know that some of that had been collected, and I was hoping what we were going to get in this phase 1, apparently, or so-called phase 1, was going to be whatever the FBI had collected during that Operation Leap Year that we had talked about on this show for years and all that, because I know that New Mexico was a part of that investigation. That was eventually what was completely shuttered when Alex Acosta, the former labor secretary, was told, stop it and move on. And that's when they gave him the pretty much the, I don't know, the house arrest order in Florida. But, when it comes to, let me, because I'm trying to manage the clock here too. I have 2 minutes. I want to show you from this recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience with Elon Musk there. It's going to give us a couple of things here. They're talking about Epstein and Trump. So we're going to be able to take this to either Trump. There's a little bit of Musk I got to ask you about, but it's also Epstein too. I want to see how this all coalesces for you. Let's listen to it together. It's about a minute 50, and I want to see what you think about this.
Talking all over the news that this is a convicted felon. They kept saying convicted felon. And everybody knows what it is.
Yes.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying they could do it so brazenly to a guy who was the president for 4 years.
Right. That lawsuit was funded by Reid Hoffman, who is a major Dem donor.
Anytime you want to jump in, Jason, just start talking and I'll pause it, okay? Okay.
And also an Epstein client.
Uh,
The plot thickens.
The plot thickens. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
It's just, it's so blatant. It's like so obvious. The SpaceX lawsuit, the Trump stuff, it's so obvious.
Yes. Like known Epstein clients who are obviously extremely powerful, powerful politically and very wealthy, are Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and Reid Hoffman. And some others too, but those three. So, why was Reid Hoffman so intent on destroying Trump?
You think it's because they're worried about the list coming out?
Yeah, one of the reasons. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm like, this is, so.
It's so frustrating to be sitting in a situation where the list isn't coming out.
Well, it better come out, hopefully tomorrow.
Why'd they release bullshit today?
I don't know.
What's the point in giving these people like a happy folder to wave around in front of the camera with nothing in it that's new? Doesn't make any sense. It's not encouraging.
Like I said, it's the tough thing that they've got is, they've been made captain of a ship with a hostile crew.
Right.
So they don't have it's not like you have like magical powers. You get made captain of a ship with a hostile crew. You still have a hostile crew.
Right.
You've got to bring in people who are going to, be helpful as opposed.
There you go. Okay, so it would be helpful. All right. So aside from general thoughts on that, again, the whole idea of bringing it, being the captain of a ship of a hostile crew. When you think about Southern District of New York, which is in the crosshairs right now, when you hear that, you say, okay, well, if they're a hostile crew, then who are they friendly to? Are they friendly to Epstein? Are they friendly to the system that the network that incubated Epstein? Who are the people out there, and under what circumstances are they working? Are they on the take? Why, what is keeping the power structure in order? Who has what on the SDNY that they're not complying with anything that's even remotely pro-human and proactive about this whole thing? What is being protected out there? Obviously, you say if what's on those hard drives is the most insane and brutal, horrible things that you can think of. As long as it's not the FBI agents involved on those tapes, then why the hell would you not want the Attorney General to know what's on it?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the Attorney General and Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
I don't think she has any idea outside of what's been reported via the mainstream media of the Epstein case. So first of all, you have to understand that these people that have come in, they're not superheroes and they're not really experts, Frank. They're people that have climbed the mountain in their respective arenas. They're lawyers, and in a lot of ways, they're groomed politicians, right? They know the talking points. Maybe this woman, really thought she was getting the Epstein files. But again, if the Epstein files were coming to the Attorney General, Frank, okay, the ones that we know exist, like the stuff that I just talked about, well before they went to the public, you would have indictments and arrests for the criminal behavior. Hence, the vast majority of the criminal activity in those documents would still not be able to be made public,
right,
until you had criminal investigations and prosecutions. That's a start. If you don't see that, okay, then whatever they give you after the fact is junk. It's garbage. As far as Elon Musk saying something about Reid Hoffman and Jeffrey Epstein, they may have very well had a relationship, Frank, but I can tell you this, he was not named in the original quote-unquote black book. So, in other words, the one that Nick Bryant got that we know is real, the only Hoffman that was in there was Dustin Hoffman. Okay? And you notice people are obsessed with like Tom Hanks and things like that. Guess who's not in the book? Tom Hanks isn't in the book, but Dustin Hoffman is in the book. Now, again, I'm not accusing Dustin Hoffman of anything, but this should wake people up to the narratives they've been sold in this case. So the first thing is, if we're getting real stuff, right, Frank, there will be indictments and prosecutions of the criminals first. If that does not happen, sorry, you're out of luck. You ask how this system in New York can allow this to happen. Well, we still don't have the Wiener laptop, do we?
I asked that,
way,
yeah.
I interviewed a gentleman named Nate Kane.
I know Nate.
Okay, I was going to ask you if you were familiar with him. When I had him on my program, I brought up the Wiener laptop, and that all of a sudden brought up a story I had never heard before. We actually break news sometimes on my show, folks. He tells me that it was his supervisor at the FBI that got that call from the SDNY to send the FBI down to look at the Wiener laptop. He then said that the laptops, in case people are unaware, that are used by the FBI have tools that are beyond consumer grade, okay? So I'd like people to think about, for instance, the Seth Rich case, okay? If you've listened to the Seymour Hersh tapes, okay? Yeah. Hersh talks about how originally the DC police come in, they try to get into Seth Rich's computer and they can't do it, all right? So then they bring in a quote unquote hot shit from the FBI and he's able to get into the computer, you understand, and get in there. So they have better forensic tools that can reveal more and crack more within the FBI. You know what Nate Kane told me about that FBI laptop?
What?
It magically disappeared. So his supervisor is the one that sent the laptop to be examined. Not only do we not know where the Wiener laptop is, we don't know where the FBI laptop is that investigated the Wiener laptop. And Nate Kane said that his supervisor was greatly reprimanded for that fact.
See, this is why every disclosure movement, I'm behind the sentiment, but in my heart of hearts, I'm just like, why would anything that, especially at a top tier level, there may be some involvement by our own government or other governments, intelligence, anything that is going to screw with the actually pull apart the thread, pull apart the sweater that holds together the entire world's, power structure. Why would it be preserved in some kind of a public way where I don't understand? See, this is why I naturally assume that things of real intrinsic or extrinsic value to the power structure, the real power out there, is just going to be moved to places where it's out of reach.
Well, I mean, look at New York right now. You had the announcement from Andrew Capo Cuomo that he's about to run for the mayor of New York City. It's a legit serial killer, Frank. A legit serial killer who, when people started acknowledging the fact that his policies killed a massive amount of people, they made his exit about grab ass allegations.
Yeah.
And guess what, Frank? After that, he sued New York successfully and he got his money back. Absolutely nothing happened other than he was able to step down and circumvent any type of not only accountability criminally, but accountability in the public arena. And now the rebrand is happening.
I mean, he said the other day, he said something, I think, what crazy thing did he say? He said that he saved New York City during COVID and now he can save it as mayor right now. And I'm thinking to myself, what, did 30,000 people die? 15 or 30,000 people die in nursing homes in New York alone? Forget about what happened to the 50% of businesses in the city. But what about just like what these people are insane. I mean, but it goes beyond that. I mean, what's his name from the FBI? Andrew, what's his name? McCabe. I mean, he got his pension back. This is a guy who's leaking to the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere. I mean, so it makes no. This is what black pills people. Look, man,
I actually want to be pretty upbeat. I'm going to say it like this. If you had told me that the administration was going to come in, and I probably agree with about 80% of what they've done, and say, take away the security clearance of ghouls like John Brennan and Michael Hayden and Leon Panetta, I would have been like, that's a great move.
Yeah.
They made a great move there. We're only 40 days deep. I think it's a ballsy move, not just with Kash Patel, but Dan Bongino does let them know that he means business. You know, this is a guy that's not only ex-NYPD and ex-Secret Service, but took over Rush Limbaugh's spot on the conservative media circuit and really went further than a lot of mainstream conservative pundits have ever. I think this time he's doing a much better job of quote unquote being the Superman that he promised. But at the same time, Frank, you know, we sat here and we talked about Epstein. You know what they just said about the JFK files, right?
No, what?
They said that they found 2,000 documents that they had never seen before regarding the JFK files and that were not even provided to the Warren Commission. So let's unwrap that for a second. The last time that Trump was in office, he twice promised us the JFK documents. He was assured that all the documents had been gone through, and has since revealed that Mike Pompeo and others in the CIA basically walked him down from the ledge and convinced him not to publish all these documents. These 2,000 documents were never even a part of that. That means that Trump and his people never saw those at all. Now, if that can happen, and we know that's happened, how much more is being hidden? What has been destroyed? Because people also have to understand there's this talking point out there that everybody involved in the JFK assassination is dead. That's a false talking point. That's not real. You know, one of the Secret Service members that was in the car with JFK died less than a year ago.
One of the other Secret Service members died 2 days ago.
What was that, Clint Marshall? Something like that?
93-year-old guy who's on the back of the car. I think he just died over the weekend.
Okay.
But that's the other thing. You know, you take great pride. Everybody takes great pride hunting down the last of the Nazis. If they can go and dig some old German guy, some 99-year-old German guy out from a bingo night somewhere in Liechtenstein and bring him up on charges of war crimes, they'll do it just for the sensationalist headlines. But with JFK, if somebody's alive, they want to be able to be respectful. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Well, because it goes beyond just painting a broader picture about the Central Intelligence Agency and the FBI. Number one, I think a lot of these documents are going to show academia. They're going to show the shell companies that have been utilized. I think they're also going to show the connections with organized crime. The fact that a lot of these quote unquote gangsters in many ways were working at some point with the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the DOD, you name it. Maybe as far back as when the DOD was the War Department. So that also kind of eviscerates so many of the narratives that we've been fed for how long, Frank. And I love myself a good gangster picture, for sure. But a lot of people have to realize that this Hollywood vision of organized crime or intel networks is very much that. It is Hollyweird. You know, going back to the arms dealer thing a little bit, you know, they remember when they made that movie Argo about the fake movie in order to go in and get the hostages, or I'm sorry, they made it as a way for reprieve on the hostages and the people that had been killed by the PLO at the Olympics. Okay. Arnon Milken was an arms dealer too. I'm sure you've seen Eyes Wide Shut, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You know the red cloak character, aka the doctor, the people that are supposed to be one and the same. Sidney Pollack, up until the day he died, was an Israeli spy and an arms dealer. He worked with Arnon Milken. Just type in Sidney Pollack and arms
who
dealer.
played Ziegler?
Yes. Type it in. Sidney Pollack, arms dealer. And here's something even better. Guess who knew he was an arms dealer the entire time?
Kubrick?
Nope. Robert De Niro. Somebody who's still doing movies about American politics like Zero Day. De Niro knew Pollack was a spy and an arms dealer all the way back in the 70s, even asked him about it.
Hold on. Hold on. Let me see. Sydney. Hold on. I want to get this. I want to get this second. Here we go. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Once Arnon Milken was on board for the report, he divulged some Hollywood names who were involved in the past, notably American film director and producer Sidney Pollack, who helped in covert acquisitions of arms and sensitive military equipment for Israel, according to Milken, who refers to him as a real partner. When asked if Pollack, who died of cancer in 2008, was fully aware of details of the deals, Milken says that, quote, Pollack knew, but I didn't want to scare him because he's American. He could have said no. He could have said no many times, but he also said yes many times, end quote.
So there you go.
I didn't even know that.
Again, there's another example of Hollyweird interacting with the military-industrial complex and specifically Israel. All right. So again, when you're looking at this, there's a lot of reasons they don't want these documents out. And a lot of them do involve celebrities, politicians of note, people in business, etc. And look, you know, Musk can sit up there with Joe Rogan, but we got to remember Elon Musk is in that photograph with Ghislaine Maxwell. I have no idea how far their relationship actually goes, but it's not like Elon Musk hasn't liked to date young models and doesn't have over a baker's dozen kids. I mean, even what Grimes is what? Is she even pushing 30 yet?
See, this is, I obviously didn't want to cut any of this short. That's why I'm just letting this I was letting this just roll from Epstein I'm glad we started with Epstein, because I was going to start with, it doesn't even matter at this point because I got about 3 minutes left. We got to do a part 2 because I wanted to ask you about what you feel about Doge, but not only that, since we're starting to talk about Musk, I know that AI has already played a huge role in Trump 2.0 in this month and a half that we've been watching this. Obviously, one of the central figures of the Trump administration is now Elon Musk, which I know you have been very, very critical and dubious. He's a dubious character in your world in a big way. So I want to hear about these sprawling AI initiatives like Stargate that covers everything from surveillance to personalized biotech for Americans. I don't want to miss out on this, but I can't tell you to force your thoughts into 2 minutes. So let's get you rescheduled, man, because I don't want.
I'm 100% with you, and you're right. This is a very complex topic when we are talking about artificial intelligence. The Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer program is going full throttle with Trump. So is blockchain, crypto, things like XRP. It's not just Bitcoin. Remember, XRP was discussed by the World Economic Forum as their global, quote unquote, CBDC. Now, I know he signed these executive orders saying there's not going to be any central bank digital currencies, but he also signed another couple of executive orders that sound great on the surface. I'm not sure what they mean. When you sign an executive order saying that you're taking the government out of censorship, well, then how come the algorithm hasn't changed at X? How come I'm still shadow banned over there? How come I can't make a living on YouTube and I'm not allowed to monetize my content? I've seen nothing of substance with the government being uninvolved with censorship. No one's even mentioned signature reduction, where you have this open program of the military embedded in private companies and operations here in this country. And the same thing with deeming the cartels as terrorists, Frank. Sounds great on paper. Hey, I mentioned Iran-Contra. We were the ones dealing drugs with the help of Israel. Are they terrorists? Are the men in the CIA that helped do this terrorists? Are the people that have worked with the cartels in the past and probably still working them currently, are they terrorists? So look, there's a lot good with this administration. On a surface level, I do think that this is shining like gold and diamonds. But we got to ask ourselves what parts of these things are actually fool's gold, and what parts of these things are the digital diamonds of slavery if we let them get out of control. Artificial intelligence is one of those technologies. And unfortunately, there are, like I said, I think people have their blind spots. I think one of Trump's big blind spots is he does not currently understand some of the technologies that are out there and their broader implications of not only globalism, but centralized authoritarianism, my friend.
Yeah. Even for me too, it's one thing to say no CBDC. It's another thing to say we're going to have a crypto stockpile for the government. But then when you get in, executive orders are whatever to me. It sounds nice to say we are now pro free speech, but how does that compel? And it's one thing to say, all right, well, the executive branch, we're going to make sure that there's absolutely no interaction or any kind of coercement being placed on social media like the last administration does. I mean, you're the head of the executive branch. Most of these agencies should not exist. So you actually, even by fiat, should not have any influence on the way that a company does business, because there shouldn't be a special department that actually regulates your company somewhere. The whole thing there is all messed up too constitutionally. But what I would also like to talk to you about there too is, we know that a lot of these social media companies have a lot of roots in intelligence operations and money like that, but they have been set up as private entities that have some sort of they have a free market buffer of autonomy there, where you can just say that our censorship at YouTube or something like that, which I don't know how. I mean, your channel is up. You're a very lucky guy. I mean, you have a lot more. Seriously, I mean,
you know what, Frank? Again, I went for the remonetization, right? And it took the process of a couple weeks, and they came back and they just said, hey, I'm harmful content. I don't say anything that I can't put to the test. Even with Grok, bro, I got Grok to admit that my account is 70% likely to be shadow banned, and I could have got it to admit more if I did more prompts. Essentially, I didn't even use the term shadow ban. I used the term limited. If you're good, you can now use these artificial intelligences against themselves. For instance, you mentioned that like many of these organizations have roots in government funding. Google is one of them. Google really starts with the National Library Initiative, and that's out of NASA and DARPA.
Right.
So what that was they wanted to digitize all the information that was publicly available, all the knowledge on the planet. And essentially, Larry Brin and Page got the money and the grant in that project that gave them the search algorithm that had already been developed by DARPA. They thanked NASA.
And that's what I'm talking about. That history is so, it's available for anybody to be able to put this two and two together. But what we have to contend with as American citizens, and especially as now, members of a decentralized new media landscape, is that we come under the yoke. We live under the yoke of what masquerades as just toxic corporate culture, but is really just, these are the fellow travelers of what is a much larger power structure that needs this kind of censorship to be prevalent. And what do you do? Because when you try to sue them, you're just like, hey, listen, we're a private company, and this and that. And then we start getting into, whether, how do we define our telecommunications systems and all that, and to get into internet bills of rights and all that stuff, which all then again gives more power to the central authority to make these determinations. And you're in a hamster wheel. So I know that ultimately, if we were talking to our mutual friend, James Corbett, it's just, listen, it's the free market. You're going to have places that are friendly to you and places that are unfriendly. And once you ask the authorities to come in and make some kind of an intercession on your behalf, then you are essentially giving power to the devil. And it's just you whatever. But listen, we have to end tonight because I have a book club to start. I'm going to contact you after the show to make sure that we can get a part 2 on here, because we haven't spoken in months. So we We got so much left on the table here. Let everybody know where they can find you and listen to you, because I know your work is never ending. So go ahead, Jason.
Yep. As long as I'm breathing, I'm gonna be talking and running this mouth. Follow me on X at Jason Burmis. That's Bermas. I got a daily show over at Patriot.tv. I've interviewed a multitude of people that are in the public arena that are of great importance, and we try to break down some of the stories you don't see everywhere. Just had Mike McCormick, the former White House stenographer, on breaking the story that he was with Cheney on a trip to Pakistan, where he believes they were actually scouting out the location of where they knew bin Laden to be all the way back then. So please check that stuff out. Check out all my documentary films. They're also free over on the YouTube page, The Info Warrior, Shade the Motion Picture, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, Fabled Enemies, and of course, the classic Loose Change Final Cut. Thank you so much, Frank.
You got it. And everybody, yeah, you can go and check it out on his on his YouTube. They're all archived there. We often put your documentaries up on like after hours programming on great. I mean, it's essential. It's essential to watch these documentaries, I think, at least once a year just to stay fresh. But thanks for everything, Jason. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Here he goes. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So here's what we got. That's the end. Thank you so much to my super chatters. Let me go on to Rumble Rants. Tommy Jekyll, says, good stuff, Frank, but usually is on the nights I'm able to show up. Good things for everyone. Well, thank you so much for your presence here, Tommy. And thank you to everybody else. Thank you to Paulie and Delona over there on Pilled. I know those are the last ones. I have book club starting momentarily. So I will see you guys tomorrow night. It's going to be a good one. We got a great guest. Joe Mooney's on. We're going to be talking about homesteading and the state of the world and what you can do to have a little fun regaining your independence in that world. And then, I don't know. It's going to be a long week, but it's going to be a jam-packed fun week. And that's all I have for you right now. Good night, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Will you shut up?
No.